What's poppin' YouTube? Lloyd of Houston coming at you with a video. 713 the Bio City, we up in here. So as you can see, this is the 53-man roster that I wanna put my thoughts in. Yeah, there's still a chance that a few players may hit the active roster, for example, such as Harrison Bryant, for example, and one or two more players that's on the practice squad could make their way to the active roster before the start of week 1 when the Houston Texans take on a great Rams team. So, as far as the quarter, I'm surprised Graham Mertz, even made the 53-man roster. That's my big surprise right there. So quarterbacks, they got Stroud, Mills, and Mertz. And as far as running backs, they could use a fullback this year. The running backs consist of, Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, Damian Pierce, Dare Ogunbowale, and British Brooks. The running back depth is pretty good, despite Joe Mixon being out for the first 4 games of 2025. Hopefully he won't miss almost the whole season like Christian Harris did last year. So let's hope that Joe Mixon don't miss all of this upcoming season. And then as far as receivers goes, it consists of Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Braxton Berrios, Xavier Hutchinson. They kept 7 receivers, and like I mentioned in my roster cuts video, Jalen Noah could be returning kicks or Berrios, or hell, even Justin Watson. And of course, Houston kept 2 tight ends, which I'm kind of surprised, though they could, add a tight end to the active roster, such as, Harrison Bryant, knowing Irv Smith's not going to play in 2025. Or hell, they can even add Luke Lachey to the 53-man roster, as the 3rd tight end. And the offensive linemen, they got 9 all-linemen, and yeah, there's been talks about Cam Robinson potentially being traded. And even if Cam Robinson does stick around, I wouldn't be surprised if Ariante Ursary ends up playing left tackle while Titus Howard finds himself playing at right tackle, because Titus Howard's going to have to lead that offensive lineman now that Laramie Tunsil is gone. Now, of course, communication is going to be key, along with gelling together like super glue. Now, on the defensive side and special teams, it was good to see that Togo I made the 53-man, Darrell Taylor, Dylan Horton, and, the D-line, got most of their players still, and the linebackers is pretty much set. They got 6 linebackers, 3 specialists, and 8 defensive backs. And as far as speaking of defensive backs, defensive backs is still, they could add I feel like they could have kept, Jalen Mills. Reason I say that is in case C.J. Gardner-Johnson happens to miss any games going forward. Or they could, add Justin Simmons for cheap, for cheap. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but hell, they could use Justin Simmons for cheap. Because I'm concerned, because as far as MJ Stewart goes long term, yeah, he could be a reliable backup, but my concern would be how trustworthy can he be in the long term going forward. Should GJ happen to miss games long term going forward, which I hope that's not the case. But like I mentioned, they could add a few players on this 53-man roster before September 7th, or defensive back depth in the secondary, because having key depth is really key for not just for the Texans, but any team in the league. Because without depth, oh man, it's kind of hard for backups to step up, whenever their key players happen to go down with injury, whether short term or long term. So hopefully, they could get the secondary depth situated along with, the tight end, the third tight end situated, before the start of 2025. Because week one is now 9 days from now, for Texans and Rams. And as far as September 4th, it's now 6 days away between the Eagles and Cowboys. So stay tuned for the first prediction video for 2025, because I got to knock that out too soon. But I just want to put my thoughts in on this 53-man roster, but it is subject to change. So, hey, whatever happens. Just as long as this team stay healthy and take care of business, that's all there is to it. But, hey, Lord Houston checking on up out of here. 713 to Space City. I'm out. Peace. Go Texans.